Box. This is John Carter, and with us today is Chris Ming, Athletic Director and Assistant Principal at Marine City High School. And Chris, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
First day of school, how was it?
It went well. It was warm, but the kids were back in the building, and typical high schooler fashion, they were very non-committal about the day and their summers and all those, but it was a good day. Good to have them back.
How'd it go? Oh, good. Oh, fine, right?
Yeah, it was good. It was good, yeah. I've been back for about a month, and so for me, getting that energy with the kids back in the building is just as exciting. It's an exciting time to have them back in there, and regardless of whether or not they're excited to be back, it's fun to have that energy back.
It feels full again, right?
It does, yeah. It's
full house.
It's like driving a school bus without any kids in it. It's empty, and it doesn't work so well.
So how long has it been now that you've been athletic director and assistant principal?
This is the start of my 5th year.
That's amazing, amazing. So put on that assistant principal hat here just for a moment. What are some of the big challenges you face in that role?
Well, on day one, it's always about being as visible as possible, making sure that the teachers get what they need, making sure the students get the support that they need on that first day, and being around and helpful as much as I can. Today was a lot about directing traffic. We have a couple of teachers who are out on maternity leave right now to start the school year, so making sure those substitute teachers are set up and helping everyone get what they need.
That's great. So let's talk about Marine City sports.
Sure.
Fall program is interesting. Michigan starts school late but starts sports early. So many teams have actually played as much as a third of their schedule already, or at least a quarter of their schedule. So tell us a little bit about how some of the sports are going and some of the key bright spots so far for you guys.
Sure. It is an interesting challenge. Getting the freshmen in the door to start the fall sports season before school starts is always a big challenge. I thought our coaches have done a great job of recruiting the middle school in the spring to get them out there for the fall. So we've managed to build that. Our teams are off to good starts. The ones that jump out to me right now, we have our volleyball team has done a couple tournaments already. And volleyball won one tournament at Warren Woods Tower, and then they were the varsity runner-up at the Cousino tournament. So that's a good positive start.
Against much bigger schools, I would think.
Oh, yeah, much bigger schools, and it's always good to test yourself early. They had a very successful season last year, and they're looking to build off of that.
Yep.
Our girls cross-country team took second place at the Brown City Invitational, and that's important because those are now the schools that we're going to be running against in the MHSA Regional at the end of the season. So it was a good barometer of where we are in terms of light competition. We have our soccer team has been at it. Our tennis team started out 4-1 to start the season.
That's very good.
Very young talent. We have some young freshmen who are just jumping in right away and doing a great job for Coach Daly and the tennis team.
So we have to talk about football. A little bit of a disappointing start, but still a long season left to go, right?
Sure. I talked with Coach Golish before the season started, and we knew that our season was going to be very much front-loaded with very difficult games to start the season. Algonac had beaten us last year, and we knew it was going to be a tough test. And it was a good game. It was a game where both teams had the chance to win it, and unfortunately we didn't make enough plays to win that first one. Another tough game up at Port Huron, and lost to Northern there, but we know it's a long season. It's 9 weeks. You got to play those 9 games, and we've got 7 more to go. And I have all the faith in the coach and the players that they're going to turn this thing around and do what Marine City football does.
And Algonac was a playoff level team last year, and obviously they've started out great this year. And again, Port Huron Northern, much larger school. One of the challenges of the MAC is that you do get that kind of disparity sometimes in your leagues, depending on how well you've done. Marine City obviously has done terrific in football for years, but I mean, Port Huron Northern probably twice the size of Marine City at this point.
A little bit more.
Yeah.
But that's we know what we are going to expect. We know in football that we're going to play. Every school is bigger than us, and that's what success does to you. The Macomb Area Conference is based on equitable competition, and we've had success, and so we're going to continue to play teams that are bigger and, well, physically a little bit stronger than us sometimes. And this year we're getting a little bit of a setback, but not going to set us back too far.
I get it. So you mentioned something earlier that I really wanted to highlight is a program that your volleyball team is putting on here, and along with Cardinal Mooney. Why don't you talk about the Purple Out coming out?
Sure. Cardinal Mooney approached me back in the spring about us coming in for their Purple Out to promote some cancer awareness. And we already do something with Pink Halo, but that's centered more around basketball. And Coach Thomas in the volleyball program really got behind the idea. It takes place October 5th. At Cardinal Mooney, and for our end, what we're doing is we're selling purple ribbons, and each of the players in the team, JV and varsity, are getting those ribbons and trying to accept donations to help raise a little bit of money for Cardinal Mooney and their Purple Out event. Cardinal Mooney is getting all the shirts for all the athletes to wear, and it's a good opportunity for the two high schools within Marine City to come together for a common good.
It's terrific, and I love it when the teams get involved in these sorts of things, and I think it really kind of creates some of that community awareness as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So let's talk about the sports program, and Marine City has been very, very successful for many, many years. I'd be interested, how does the sports program fit into what you're trying to accomplish as a culture for your high school? I mean, how does that promote the values you're trying to establish?
Well, one of the things we talk to all of our freshmen about, and we reiterate it every single year, is to be involved. The more you're involved with any of the activities that we have to offer, the better student and better experience you're going to have when you're at Marine City High School. We've done very, very well in our classroom, but we've done very, very well with our activity participation as well. We have close to 100 kids in the marching band again this year. Our drama program is top notch. Our band and choir are getting top marks in the state when they're state level competitions, and those same kids are also participating in our athletics. We actually have the highest participation rate of any of the MAC schools, with close to 90% of our student body compared to the number of roster spots we have for athletic teams.
That's amazing, and I know you wanted to mention, and maybe this is a good spot to do it, that you're looking to create a new program to actually take that to the next level with leadership from the kids.
We are. I had my fall sports meeting with my coaches to start the school year, and I wanted to brainstorm some different ways to enhance our athletic program. You know, being in it, I've done it for 4 years now. I'm looking for ways to keep adding to the experience for our student athletes. And one of the ideas that the coaches came up with was a student athlete leadership program. And without going into too much detail, what we'd like to do is basically have some elected leaders or have leadership potential from teams in a small group setting and allow those student athletes to develop the norms and the talking points and the format of how to develop their leadership skills throughout the school year.
So you see that really going out beyond obviously just the athletics and having it be academic, social, the whole range.
Absolutely, and the coaches are on board. They're shooting different ideas in about ideas to talk about, but we've also tossed about the idea of not me just running it being a student-driven activity with a sponsor, coach, or athletic director each month or each week or whatever it happens to be to kind of oversee it. So it's not just the same face. It's not us dictating it to the students, but rather them taking the initiative and creating what they want from the situation.
It'd be interesting too. I wonder what the cross-fertilization will be like from the different sports. For example, I mean, you think about leadership in an individual sport such as tennis versus for volleyball, which is very much a team sport.
Well, the great thing about leadership is you have to work with all kinds of different dynamics. No matter what setting you're in, you have to analyze your situation, you have to figure out the needs of the group, and you have to adapt to make that work. That's what the essence of leadership is. So it will be interesting to see it all play out. Who amongst the leaders steps up to be a leader, who is more of the listener, who is more of the talker. So all those group dynamics should play out here soon as we start the school year.
And you know, from I guess more of a, not selfish, that's not the right word, but I guess very pragmatic point though, this will help the kids not just in high school, but I would expect that's the sort of thing that colleges look for. It's the sort of thing that businesses look for. This has got to be a program that should impact them for the rest of their lives.
Well, if our school goal is to prepare kids for post-secondary experiences, this plays right into that.
Yep.
It's very few of our kids, any of our students, play college athletics, and very few from there ever make it to professionals. We've only had one who's come close.
Right.
And you know, we look at that and say, okay, what other experiences can we offer them? How else can we teach them to prepare them for that life outside Marine City High School? And this right here is a stepping stone in that direction.
And again, that ability to work with other kinds of kids, you know, football players with the cross-country runners or whatever, that just makes for a great mix.
Absolutely. It should be an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, that's cool.
They're great kids, though. Great kids.
And maybe this is another good segue. You've got in front of you what I thought was a really interesting and cool letter. I saw it over the summer from MHSAA to Marine City. Tell us a little bit about the letter, how it started, and really what it means to you as a leader of the athletic program and for all the coaches and players and parents at Marine City.
The letter itself is congratulating us on having no negative officials ratings, no areas of concern, ejections, sportsmanship issues for the entire 15-16 school year.
For all the sports.
For all the sports. That is hundreds of athletic contests. And there's lots of different situations that can come up during the year that would warrant one of these things. We have worked very hard to talk about sportsmanship. We have made sure it's a part of our message every single game. In all of our gym events, we have ads rolling through with how important it is to be a good sport. And the parents, the coaches, the student athletes have really jumped on that and embraced that idea. And I'm extremely proud of this. I love to win, but in my mind, wins and losses come after sportsmanship and respect. And these kids are learning a valuable lesson on how to conduct themselves, and I could not be more proud of the coaches, the student athletes, and the parents in our community.
So this letter is from the head of the entire athletic association for Michigan. I mean, any sense of how many other schools, if any other schools, get something like this?
Well, I'm sure there are other schools. This is the first time in the 4+ years that I've been there that we've received this letter.
Okay.
And it's something that was also sent to Dr. Skalka and Ms. Ibula, my principal. And it's just something that I'm extremely proud of, because it is something that we have to work at every single day. Sportsmanship is not something you just you check it off and you don't readdress it. It's something you have to actually consciously think about on a daily basis. And that takes a lot of hard work. And I'm glad that people have embraced that idea.
Well, and it gives, there's a reward too. I mean, there's notification and a recognition that your group has really accomplished something great. I think it's terrific. As I say, I saw it over the summer, and it's a great reflection on the community, the kids, the athletic department, and so on.
Well, I'll be honest, it is the best piece of mail that I've received while I've been at Marine City High School.
That's really very nice. So let's talk about, I mean, one of the things that's coming up, and I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on it, is this whole one sport versus multiple sport, I don't call it controversial question. And we had the Olympics this last summer, and obviously some of those kids who, levels above what any high school player could be have been, stories since 5 years old or whatever. But I mean, what's the philosophy in Marine City about multiple sports, and how do you try to encourage kids to get the best of themselves?
Well, we absolutely need multi-sport athletes. I mean, a school our size, we have to have multi-sport athletes to be able to field teams. And the message that we really deliver to our student athletes is, you don't have to be the best in every sport you play. Being a part of a team is something special. And I am a huge proponent of multi-sport participation. We had a great example of a student athlete last year. He is a cross-country and track runner who's now moved on to participate at SC4. He received a scholarship to run cross-country and track at SC4. His name is Blake Haney. And Blake was very good at running, and he was convinced to swim and join the swim team in the winter. It was something that he wanted to challenge himself with, and it was something that really helped the team. And he was great as a cross-country runner. He was the #1 runner on our cross-country team. But he wasn't as great at swimming. And it's a little bit of a humbling experience to be great at one thing and be a cog in the machine in the other sports. And that's good. We go back to talking about the team dynamic and leadership. The ability to adapt to different roles is important for your personal development. I know that most of the coaches on my staff were multi-sport athletes as well. And the experiences as a pitcher on the baseball mound help shape how you might be a receiver on the football team. Different roles within those teams teach you how to be a good teammate. And we absolutely need our multi-sport athletes, and we have very few who specialize.
Right.
And not to mention, I don't like them very much, Ohio State, but there's tweets that come out from Urban Meyer about the number of his athletes who are multi-sport participants. And I hope that message carries out, that specializing too early is probably going to limit your opportunities. And it's by being involved and having a different group with multi-sports that you actually experience the things that you need to be successful outside of the sports world.
Yeah, and the other reality is many of the coaches are coaching multiple sports.
Absolutely.
There's may not be the head coach necessarily, but football coaches are involved in track or basketball or whatever it might be, so there's good role models there as well.
And our coaches really do support each other. We do have multiple coaches who coach multiple sports, but outside of that, we know that we have to share athletes. And because we know we have to share athletes, and that includes drama, and that includes band, there's a very good working relationship about putting the best interest of kids at mind. And so we always try and consider what's best for them and put that at the forefront of all of our plans. And being involved and being busy focuses your time when you do have it on your academics and limits the amount of time to make bad decisions.
Exactly. Well, and actually, was a couple years ago, Marine City famously had a girl kicker for the football team, and that football team was extraordinarily successful.
Kind of worked out.
Kind of worked out pretty well. So
we have multiple girl kickers this
really
year. We do. We have Jensen Houston's kicking for the varsity.
Okay.
And we have Lauren Morris who's kicking for the JV. And then we also have a few girls playing on the freshman team as non-kickers.
Interesting. Well, I mean, the sports world that's changing. I know, again, speaking of the Olympics, a number of women wrestlers, and I think an American took home a medal. So, I
Absolutely.
mean, it's very interesting what's considered to be appropriate male or female sports at this point. I think that barrier is kind of being knocked down regularly. On a daily basis. So you've mentioned a couple times, some of the things you do as an athletic director. Putting on that hat for a bit,
okay.
What are some of the big challenges that you face?
Well, the biggest challenge that I face on a daily basis is figuring out the right ratio of AP to AD.
Yeah.
There are some days that are very much 90% AP, and there are other days where it's 90% AD. And it's about striking that balance. Scheduling is a huge issue.
Yeah.
You're always scheduling and worrying about today's events. You're always worrying about the heat. You're worried about the weather. You're worrying about the busing situation. But then you're also always planning the season ahead as well.
Right.
So you're always one season ahead with your plan. And then you're always thinking, okay, the next one's not too far around the corner. So by the time we hit October, I'll be finishing up the winter sports schedule.
Right.
And as soon as we start winter sports in November, I'll already be working on all of the spring sports schedule. And so you're always working ahead. And there's interesting things that come into that. For example, transportation to different places. You have to worry about your traffic. Anytime we're traveling out to Clawson or Lanphier,
Right.
we have to factor traffic into it and when we can get out there. We can't get to Clawson for a 4 o'clock game. It's just
Right.
not going to work.
Right.
And they know that coming this way as well. But other things we have to consider, like shared facility. We are fortunate to have a beautiful stadium facility that we share with St. Clair. That presents an interesting dilemma when we're trying to get sub-varsity football, varsity football, and 2 different soccer teams as well through
Right.
there. So there are a lot of things that come into it. Hopefully, people never have to ask how to do scheduling because hopefully everything goes smoothly. It's one of those things where as long as everything goes perfect, no one really knows the work that went into it.
That's right. So the ducks swimming, correct?
Absolutely.
So a couple of challenges this year, though, with the MAC and in football, with a team actually dropping out, and I know that's presented some
Sure.
challenges as well.
Yeah, we had a realignment this year within the MAC, and that caused a little bit of schedule flopping with the shared facilities, as I mentioned. But Mount Clemens dropped out of the Macomb Area Conference, and we were set to play Mount Clemens in week 3, which presented a very interesting situation on our schedule where we were having a lot of difficulty finding a week 3 opponent.
Because most teams have already got somebody scheduled, right?
And week 3 has got to be one of the hardest weeks to find. Week
Yeah.
1, week 9, you can tend to find those because it tends to be outside of your league
Conference,
schedule.
yeah, that's right.
But week 3, you're in the heart of it, and most teams are already filled up at that point. So I talked with Jeff Cook over at St. Clair. We had to try and figure out what was going to be best for both of our programs. And at that point, I still didn't have a game. And so we made the decision at that point that Marine City would be the host of the St. Clair Marine City football game for varsity football this year. So that is 2 years in a row. The date stays the same. It's still September 30th, but Marine City will be the home team for the varsity football game this year.
And you picked up Detroit Loyola for your 3rd game. A little bit of a challenge there, correct?
Yeah, they have a history of success. They are a smaller school, a small Catholic school, but they do have good success within their own league, but also within the MHSA playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
They've made some deep runs in the playoffs, including winning a few state championships along the way.
So that didn't exactly pick up a cupcake for.
No, it was one of those things where I sat down and had a conversation with Coach Glodich, and we said, let's take on the challenge.
Yeah.
If it came down to a decision between do we have a bye week or do we play them or do we travel to Grand Rapids or something like that, we have a 1-year contract with the Detroit Loyola. They'll come in here and they'll play underneath the Friday night lights out here, and we hope to have a big crowd, and it should be a good game.
Yeah, should be, actually. One of the other things, and I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on this. I would think one of the key aspects of the AD job is not just working with coaches, but actually hiring coaches.
Sure.
So how do you go about both identifying and then deciding on who you're going to give that big responsibility to?
First and foremost, we got to get the applicants. So
Yeah.
it becomes about putting that posting out in as many possible spots. For example, right now we're looking for a varsity boys basketball coach. We recently put a post on BCAM, the Basketball Coaches Association, and we're starting to get a few people who are contacting me, collecting the applications right now. What I'm really looking for is I'm looking for someone who, one, loves kids,
Yep.
and two, is a good teacher.
Yeah.
And you don't have to work in the profession of education to be a good teacher, but you've got to be able to relay the information that's in your brain about that sport to kids. I would rather hire someone who genuinely enjoys working with kids and can relay the information that they have than someone who knows their sport inside and out but has a hard time delivering that information.
Yeah.
You know, I'd rather you deliver 100% of a little bit limited knowledge base than 50% of a huge knowledge base.
Right.
And that's basically what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone who wants to be there and is excited about it, because as any coach will tell you, you don't do the coaching for the money. If you ever want to feel really depressed about your job, do the calculation of how much you make per hour if you're a coach. It doesn't work out very well.
No.
I think waitresses make more.
I'm sure they do. But as you said, there's great rewards. So, I mean, one of the other things that's been, I think, again, not necessarily specific to high school sports, but overall has been the concussions and the health. How has that particular issue impacted the way your coaches have approached their sports? Obviously, I mean, football has been kind of foremost, but it's not the only sport impacted by this.
No, it's not. We were somewhat fortunate last year. We were able to get through the year with a very limited number of concussions last year, but we've actually already hit that mark from all of last year this year already.
Wow.
It just happens to be, we go into our training the same way. The coaches coach the proper technique, but you can't control everything that happens within the game. It's about how you respond to it. So all of our coaches are concussion trained. They have to go through a certification program for that and prove that to me. I have to sign off with that with the state. But there's different paperwork that goes through with the state that has brought more of an emphasis on making sure that the doctors release students only when they're completely symptom-free. In the past, doctors were a little bit more likely to say, okay, do this if you don't have any symptoms. Big change this year is making sure that it's an unconditional return. There can be no conditions from the doctor before they start our protocol with us.
Right.
So as far as we're concerned, and with the state, MHSAA, they have to be unconditionally returned by that doctor in order to start the protocol that we have in place.
And I know there's a lot of training and certifications for the coaches as well, right?
Absolutely. All of our coaches are CPR and AED certified as well, and that's something that we do every other year. But every coach has also got that concussion awareness. We have clipboards that have the symptoms on them, the look-fors, and I'm at a lot of the activities too, and I'll do the analysis on the field. And when it comes down to it, if there's any doubt whatsoever, they're done.
Yeah.
And if we remove them from play for any reason, then they have to go to the doctor. So if they're removed from play for anything suspected with concussion, then they have to go to a doctor. Fortunately, the MHSA has recognized that they need to help back that and has provided gap insurance to the families to help with that, to offset the cost.
Right.
So any out-of-pocket cost that their personal insurance doesn't cover, the MHSA covers, which certainly helps when I can say, okay, here's the insurance papers you take with you. Go to the doctor because we care about your kid.
Yeah, that's terrific. And kind of a related thing is there's been a lot of stories about parents getting almost too involved in things, and certainly that happens in sports where parents come in and talk about playing time and so on. How does your team handle situations like that?
Well, first of all, when I get a phone call while playing time, I don't hear that. It's not for me to talk about. What I like to tell a parent is you need to talk to the coach about playing time. They know a lot more about the situation than I do, but nothing's guaranteed. Playing time is not guaranteed. If you make the team, you earn a jersey. You earn the ability to practice with that team every single day and earn your spot before every single game.
Yeah.
And a lot of parents want to believe that their kid is number one, and that's fine. It's okay to believe that about your kid and support your kid in everything you do, and we want parents to be involved. But also understand that these coaches have a vast pool of experience, and they've been doing this for a long time. And one, they're always thinking about safety, and they're never going to put you in a situation where it's unsafe. So for example, in football, if you haven't been practicing the right technique, then you're not going to be put in the game to exercise poor technique, because that's going to get you injured. And we pull that across the entire board. We are talking about varsity athletics. We're talking about the highest level of high school competition. And so that does not always equate to everybody gets in the game.
Right.
It's about who earns the playing time for that particular week, that particular game, and that's something that the parents need to talk about. I encourage all my parents, I talk about at the start of the year, it's always player to coach first. Give them the opportunity to grow up a little bit, mature a little bit, have that conversation. From there, it's parent to coach.
Right.
And from that point, if there's still no headway, that's when they can contact me and we start to gather a little bit more information.
Right.
But the first questions I always ask are, have you talked to the coach? Has your son or daughter talked with the coach?
And that's part of the learning experience, right? That helps the kid to learn how to deal with things as opposed to having somebody take care of it for them.
Eventually, they're going to leave that nest. So
Yeah.
that they're going to have to be able to think and really deal with a little bit of confrontation.
Right.
They have to be able to hear some criticisms. They have to be able to incorporate how they can become better, and they need to be able to have those conversations that feel better about themselves with it. Not always have mom or dad be there for them.
Yeah.
They have to be their own advocate.
Marine City, I think, has a well-deserved reputation as being a community really united with its sports teams. Certainly the football team foremost, but not just the football team. Many of the sports teams have it. What do you see as the athletic director, but also through your coaches, as a connection with the youth sports programs, not easy to say, in your community?
Well, one of the things I really think we have going for us is our high school coaches are also involved with those youth programs.
Okay.
So they might not run them, but they're visible and they're present. And those same voices that they see on Friday nights under the lights are the ones that they see on Saturday mornings out there at youth football. Our varsity girls basketball coach and the assistant coaches help run the biddy ball program for the community through our school. So as much as possible, we try to run a lot of those youth programs through our school in partnership with those groups to kind of develop that connection between them. It's a very proud area, and it's a very active area, and it's a great commitment to the community around here. And it's good to see those feeder programs eventually pay off at the high school level.
Yeah, it's been terrific. And again, football obviously, but girls softball, track and field, volleyball, it's really been a number of sports that have exhibited that for Marine City over the years.
Well, and I will have to say our tennis and golf, which are a little bit more auxiliary sports in our area. A few years ago, our boys and girls tennis coaches went over to the middle school to develop a middle school program over there, and we are now starting to see the dividends from that with the start to the boys tennis team that we have this year. Both coaches worked to develop a little bit of an off-season program, worked with the middle school to kind of get some kids in and get them interested, picking up a racket. A lot of the student athletes that we had for tennis in the past were picking up a racket for the first time when they made the team. And so having that exposure before has helped. And so our high school coaches have recognized that in order to be successful, they need to reach a little bit younger, and they do that on their own time. They don't do it for pay or anything like that. They do it because it's what's best by kids.
And that's how you really establish a program, right?
Absolutely.
When it starts at a young age and they just culminate or mature through high school and maybe even culminate later.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, really appreciate you coming in first day of school. I know it was
day.
hot up there, but thanks for coming in. Really enjoyed talking to you, and good luck for you for the rest of the year. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, John.
That's it for today, everybody. We're very pleased to have Chris with us. Look forward to next week on Press Box. This is John Carter saying goodbye, everybody.